Hello, fellow safety and health professional, and welcome to another podcast in a series of podcasts based on an article in Safety and Health magazine that's all about you. There are three main interactions safety and health pros engage in with fellow employees: coaching, counseling, and discipline. The first one I enjoy because it's fun. For example, teaching someone how to wear a harness and giving them tips I've learned over the years is uplifting. Or saying something positive about the way a crew is working up on the scaffolding. I like that. That's fun. In the field, coaching is very pleasurable, for me anyway. And sports coaches train and spur athletes to perform better. That's their job. And the same goes when we coach somebody on a construction site. Now, counseling is a bit tricky. When someone violates a safety, procedure of some sort, the situation is different than when you're coaching. Telling someone they didn't fill out a permit correctly is not the same as complimenting a crew on their housekeeping. I don't mind counseling, especially if it's a minor offense. I've often even had fun counseling coworkers if what they're doing isn't that risky. Now, as for discipline, I find it disturbing and I don't like it. But sometimes it's necessary. For example, I came upon two people working inside a trench once without a strictly required trench box, which, if you don't know what it is, it's a device that you put down in a trench that prevents cave-ins. And the spill, the dirt that was removed from the trench, was closer to the trench than allowed. Well, I had to stop the job. I was friendly about it. I didn't get mean and scream or anything like that. And I had to report the situation to the project manager. I had to. And the employees that were in the trench and their supervisor, they were contractors, they were dismissed from working at the site. Well, thankfully, these events haven't happened often in my 40-plus years of experience in the safety and health field. I don't know how many times. It happened every now and then, but not often. As for the other two engagements that we must do, coaching and counseling, here's what I've learned that makes you adept at them. Number one, build relationships. If I arrive at a new workplace, if I go to a new power plant or a construction site and they want me to do some, be someone who helps them with their culture, or if I'm working there, either way, the first thing I do is learn what my responsibilities are, what I'm supposed to do, of course. Then, as soon as I can, I try to make people get to know me that are working there, and then I get to know them and become kind of their friends, like work friends. It's more than just, hi, how are you? I find out where they are from, if they have children, their hobbies, what we have in common. I don't just talk about work or what job they do. Though, of course, I do talk about that. But I talk about their personal life, and I get to be friendly with them. So once they get to know me well, if I do have to tell someone that they're doing something wrong, and we have a friendly relationship, it's easier for them to accept it. And when I can, I make the counsel humorous, as long as it still gets the point across and it's not something really serious. Here's one of my favorites. I once saw a mechanic, Tina, working. She was cutting with a hacksaw and she wasn't wearing gloves. Now, I was up on a catwalk in what was called the Turbine Building, and I couldn't get to her to talk to her about it while she was doing it. And it was right near lunch, so she was going to get done at any time. And it wasn't that hazardous. I mean, yes, she should be wearing gloves. But it wasn't a big deal. She wasn't holding on to the piece of metal so that she, good chance she might have cut her fingers. So what I did was I wrote her a poem. When I got back to my office, I wrote her a poem about her hands and how precious they are. And I got a little rubber, just happened to have a little bloody rubber finger. And I sent it to her in the company mail. And it got to her like the next day. Well, she was very surprised by it. But when I went into the maintenance shop the next day, I guess, or day after. She came over, give me a hug. We had a really good relationship. She was a very nice person, and we liked each other. And but I didn't want her working without gloves. And she had put the poem up on her locker, and had the finger. And everybody in the shop, I'd say like 100 people, knew about it and thought it was funny. But here's the point: she realized that it's important for her to wear her gloves. And just as important, it didn't hurt our relationship. You see, I didn't want to up on the catwalk scream, Tina, you better wear your gloves, something like that, where then, it's going to make her feel bad. I would never do that, unless it was dangerous. Certainly if she was doing something that I thought was going to cause her to get hurt or ruin something right away, then sure, I have to be more drastic. But I've learned that if you counsel in as friendly and upbeat way as you can, unless it's serious, it makes you more effective. Now, number two, which goes along with the first one, be reasonable. I've seen too many safety professionals that I've worked with and seen that aren't reasonable. They're actually like nitpicking, because nothing tarnishes your reputation more as a safety pro than being unreasonable. Being stern and quick to find fault is counterproductive. Constantly nitpicking and just looking for things to counsel about causes consternation and bad feelings. I've seen crews mumble and curse when they see a specific safety supervisor approaching them who consistently and almost only finds fault. Yes, when I come walking up to a work site, I want everybody to look around and make sure everything is the way it should be safety-wise. That's just natural. But I also like the crew members to be smiling, glad to see me, teasingly saying stuff, as they sometimes do. When I used to work for Stone and Webster, they would say things like, oh no, here comes Safety Hazard Hawk. That was my reputation, my name, by the way, when I worked on that job site. Again, but they didn't mean it in a mean way. They meant it playfully, just making fun of me. That means if they have that kind of opinion of me, that when I do have to say something to them about their behavior that is counseling, it'll go over easier. And if it's coaching, it'll have even a bigger impact because I know I'm rooting for them. Number three, coach way more than you counsel. I know we're out there looking for safety hazards and, trying to correct things. Of course, that's a big part of our jobs. And at times, you must point out even minor infractions. Trust me, I know this. Working in the nuclear industry as a radiation safety technician and supervisor, I know what it's like to counsel on minor violations. And not because the hazards are significant, but because it's a strict industry, especially with hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of radiological safety rules. But I still, if I'm working on a nuclear power plant or a job site that has to do with radioactivity, I still give out tons of praise and only a few pounds of corrections. Even when I must tell someone to stop touching their face, which you're not supposed to do if you're in a contaminated area, or that they didn't tape their protective clothing properly, I do it in a friendly and light-hearted way. On the other hand, throughout the day, wherever I'm working, I'm sure to compliment workers about their safe behavior and cheer them on, as good coaches do.